What does the law has to do with faith and religion? You wonder? Stay with us. Welcome to Wordnet Productions. Today we have a very, loving, so also very close, a person who is so close to Wordnet, Bill Lemann, attorney, but has been a friend to Wordnet for many years. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Father,
Welcome.
for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming.
It's my honor.
Tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm a lucky guy. As a youth in scouting, we used to go to events at what we used to call the Divine Word Junior Seminary in Riverside. So in a certain sense,
The summer camps?
Summer camp.
Yes.
So I go back with the Divine Word Fathers and the Society for my entire career. So my ability to grow into adulthood and to have a profession and work with the Society has been my unique honor and pleasure. And then, of course, in recent years, my parish has been staffed by Divine Word Fathers, and so I've gotten the opportunity to spend even more time with a current generation of society members that oftentimes come from different parts of the world.
Yes,
so,
yes.
So it's been a blessing and my good fortune. So the Divine Word Fathers have been a presence in this region for my entire lifetime, and it was my honor to get to know Father Mike Manning, when I got out of law school. It was a different world. The San Bernardino Diocese has some licenses which we used to call ITFS, and Father Mike encouraged us to get those, and now we call them EBS, Educational Broadcasting Licenses. But when Father Mike and I filled those forms out, it was one page. There was one page back and front, and we got 4 licenses, which today, with the advent of broadband and licenses and the competition, you don't get licenses like that anymore. And those 4 pages that we did, you'd have to have an FCC lawyer in Washington and a lobbyist and connections with the FCC.
And it might take much longer
time.
time.
No, take years to process it. So Father Mike is one of the founders of broadcasting in our area. And I also remember talking about Father Mike, that he and I got close when we used to do a cable broadcast for St. Bernardine Medical Center. And it was like a fundraiser.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A hospital-a-thon, whatever we called it, and we did it from the Norman Feldheim Library, and we did it live. Well, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have live streaming.
Live streaming.
It was all set up using the cable equipment of the city, and I think it was a good broadcast, but it was probably of marginal quality. And of course, you had to subscribe to whatever the chambers or the whatever the cable outfit was at the time. Cable outfits used to be divided up into different areas of the city, and so we did 2 or 3 of those productions, and successfully for the medical center. And then later on, had the opportunity to buy this studio where
the studio was. I remember those days because. When I came and joined Mike Manning, we were operating from Riverside, where you had where we used to have those summer camps. We had one of the rooms, in fact 2 rooms. One room we were using as our production studio, and the other space was like our office space and for editing purposes and all that. And it's now about 16 or 17 years that we moved here to this building.
And it's been a blessing for the neighborhood. It's been a blessing for Wordnet. The site where we're at now used to be a Ford dealership. It was a car dealership. It's got a car lot all around it. Now
we had to do a lot of work to convert this into a studio.
From a car
Oh,
sales.
you remember all that.
Right. With all great memories.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Bill, because you have traveled with Mike, and even after that also, you have been a very strong supporter of, and supporter both with your, material, financially, so also other ways, and also in legal things, you have definitely, helped us in different
But
times.
I've been
I
lucky,
remember all that.
lucky to do all that. And Father Mike, speaking of, he was a great pastor too. People know him from Wordnet, but I remember being at a Christmas pageant at St. Anthony's School.
Anthony's, yes.
And there was a school there at the time. There's no school at St. Anthony now, but there were a couple hundred students, and he led them all in a song that he must have learned it in childhood, because he got them to sing. It was this one and this one, and the second grade, third grade, and they all chimed in and did their role. And
Mike had a very interesting knack of getting into the children's level or into their shoes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he was not a ventriloquist to that kind of a style, but he would use puppets, which would immediately attract the children, and he would come down to their level.
No, I'll never forget. It was almost magical, and I don't think he'd rehearsed this.
No.
I think it was something that just happened extemporaneously, and it's a great memory in my mind.
That was his charism.
Yeah.
He could do that. Bill, talking about your, as you grew up, you said as you went to the law school and you graduated, and then of course you started your own practice. You are associated with the diocese for a long time, and I think you are also the spokesperson for any legal matters of the diocese, right?
Right. When I was...
You represent the diocese, that's
right,
what I want
I do
to
represent the diocese in a number of different ways,
Yeah.
and I have to be cautious that I present myself well, because I do so, and I'm aware of that, and also very proud of that. But the Diocese of San Bernardino was created about the same time I was getting out of law school.
Oh.
So
it was bifurcated from San Diego.
Diocese. So they needed a lawyer, and I needed a job, and fortunately the two came together, and I've just had the opportunity of a lifetime to grow too, to grow as a lawyer, but to grow as a diocese. When we went from 50 parishes and schools to 100, and to and I've done a lot of things. There's down the street here where you're familiar with St. Bernardine Plaza.
Yes, of course.
It's a 13-story high-rise Section 202 program, and it was my first year out of law school, first year being a lawyer, and Monsignor Bradley was the parish, the pastor of the parish, and of course the diocese said to me, well, we're going to build this senior center. Have you ever done a major construction project like this before? It was a big contract with HUD, and of course I could do that. We're all specialized now. I don't know that I would say that, but in those days, given the opportunity, I just dig in the books and get into it, and we put up the building, and the building worked successfully.
It is very successful.
It's a beautiful building,
yes.
And it's taken care of many seniors over the years.
Yes.
But there were several projects like that. I had a case once with parishes were on two ends of the Ontario International Airport, and we had a condemnation case against Los Angeles Airport that owned it at the time.
So also, this is so unfortunate. We are in a time of many scandals as well as sexual abuse allegations that the diocese and the religious communities have to face because of the mismanagement or misconduct of one or the other priest.
It's a complicated story.
Yes, and you have worked with the diocese, you have worked with the Divine Word.
I've worked with several religious orders and several dioceses, not just San Bernardino, but when I started, these kind of lawsuits didn't exist. And the legislation has changed, which has allowed these things to occur. Unfortunately, there are a lot of sins of the past that need to be dealt with, and it's tragic. And in California, it's particularly tough because the legislature continues to eliminate statutes of limitations. So you have your claim forever. But I think the religious orders and the church as a whole, despite not getting credit for it, has done an awful lot to make schools the safest place for your children, and to deal with human foibles and people that make mistakes or people that are not fit for ministry, dealing with that in a way that perhaps
Bill, the fact that you have worked with the church, for many years, and also you have been kind of a first-hand advisor in, to the dioceses, as well as you mentioned, also to many of the to many religious orders. What would you think with regard to this situation? Sometimes the church, I feel, sometimes the church is being criticized, not in a proper way. Do you think that the church has failed in this aspect? Or you don't have to speak that from a attorney perspective, from as a believer, so also from a person that has been part of this movement, the Catholic movement.
It is.
What do you think?
I think that there is much more safety and much more liturgical reverence in the Catholic Church than many other organized religions. I'm very proud of the church. I'm proud of what we've done in recent years. Not so proud of some of the things that happened in the past. Why would you be? But the reality is that it's a very small number of people, whether it's coaches in athletic events, whether it's teachers, whether it's ordained or religious leaders. It's a very small percentage of the whole. I think that if you looked in the country and saw how many people were abused in their home lives and by relatives and aunts and uncles and professors, the percentage would be much greater than those in the church. But the church is a target because it is the church, and the church should be better than others.
Of course, yes.
And so, I think any time that there is a failing, it's going to be something that is broadcast. It's going to be hyped up, and it's tragic. And then, in even my own profession, there's a lot of money that's changed hands with lawyers in all of the litigation that's occurred in recent years.
Now, I know you mentioned the church should be perfect, but church has to be perfect because church is an organization that is trying to lead people to a perfect way of life.
Exactly.
But at the same time, the problem, I think, is this perfect church that it should be is guided and is governed by a lot of imperfect people. I'm not perfect. I've been in leadership position. I'm still in leadership position.
Right.
We're all in leadership positions.
Right.
We are trying to be perfect, but there is that amount of that element of imperfectness in all of us, right?
Not only the element of imperfection, because we're all human and we all seek forgiveness and we all try to do better, but the reality is all of us could look back to what we did, whether it was a year ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Hindsight's 20/20. It's not quite the same when you've got imperfect vision when you're 10 or 20 or 30 or 40. And part of our challenge is to make sure that we learn from our mistakes, and then a new generation coming up, we try to prevent them or limit their mistakes. They're going to make mistakes, but we're going to limit them, and certainly don't make mistakes that are going to be harmful to youth, certainly, or harmful to the human condition as we're moving forward. So it's been with us from the beginning of time. It'll be with us until the end of time. So I think we continue to struggle, but we continue to do better. And I'm happy to report to you that I've seen over a lifetime just oceans of progress as we move forward in the life of the church, in the life of human resources, in the life of how we deal with our people, not only our pews, but our employees and our faithful and our students.
Trying to be fair and just, right?
Right, correct.
Bill, we are going to take a short break. We will continue with the discussion. I have some personal things that I need to ask you. I would like to ask you, but that we will do it after we come back. Please, I'm sure you're enjoying this dialogue with Bill Lemann. Please stay with us. Don't go away. You have a lot of interesting things coming up.
Do you want to fall in love with God? I'm sure we all want to. The book of Psalms contains the directions. Thousands of years ago, people like you and me talked to God out of the depths of their hearts, revealing an intimate love. Psalms are the expression of the faith in God by people around 3,000 years ago. God was not a mere abstract creator, but was present, involved, and a real person of power and emotions. Now, when we read or listen to the Psalms, we can know the intensity of this love. Entering into the influence of the Psalms, we can find a path to know and love God. To know more about the Psalms, you should get a copy of Father Mike Manning's booklet, The Psalms. It will help you to understand the 150 Psalms better as he has categorized them. He uses the technique of acts: adoration, contrition, thanksgiving, and supplication. Get your copy today and know the categories. Learn to pray with the Psalms.
Call the number on the screen or email us. You can also get it through our website. Get your copy today.
Welcome back. We're having a wonderful discussion with Bill Lemann, attorney. He has been sharing with us about a little bit about his personal life, so also his association with Wordnet Ministries, Mike Manning, so also with the diocese.
Pleasure.
I have a question now. This is kind of a technical one. You're an attorney. Your job is to handle the law. So also to work with, let's say, me when I come to you and when I need an assistance with the law. Now, how do you balance your career as a lawyer and also your faith life?
It can be very complicated.
Yeah.
And I had someone, I walked out the door the other day and they said, "Are you a lawyer or are you a counselor?" And I took that as a compliment. Some people might not, because I spent a great deal of time with this couple in trying to meet their family needs and their estate needs. But it is a challenge. Of course, lawyers take ethical oaths and have to follow certain mores in the law, and for the most part, I think that the lawyers struggle to do the right thing, and most of the time do. However, things get in the way, and people can become greedy, they can become desperate, they can become mentally ill, they can become addicted, and that leads them down a path where the downward spiral. So, it's a challenge. I mean, there are certain things in ethics that lawyers must do. For instance, if your client is not telling the truth, you have to withdraw from the case. It makes it difficult. So how do you tell the judge that my client's not telling the truth? You have to, get the judge to let you out of the case, and so that can be a challenge. So, and then of course, clients can be very difficult, and they can see things through their eyes, and they tell you the way it's going to be.
They could be manipulative too, right?
They can try to, and I suppose they've been successful on occasion. I try not to let them, but absolutely. And I've dealt with a number of clients that are asking for things that are impossible, and that a jury or a judge are just never going to go along with. And so you need to figure out what you're going to do in that circumstance. Either extricate yourself from it so they can get whoever works with their personality, or try to bring them along so that they understand the reality of the situation. But I think today's world, of course, it's even tougher than ever, because people, we used to get cases from around the country, and they'd be referred by lawyers, and the lawyers had a book called Martindale Hubbell, and I could look up a lawyer in a certain city and see what kind of cases she did, and what kind of clients he represented. Now, of course, people all do their own research before they call you. Then they self-refer themselves in. And so they know everything about everything quite often before they talk to you. And then this is someone from Illinois calling me, asking me to get something done in a California courthouse. So that didn't exist 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So, having patience, spending time, leaving people go. You don't need to take every case. If we're not a good fit because you are asking for things that I don't think I can do, or things that I should do.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you that, and I would hope that most lawyers would do that.
You mentioned, you used the word truth. Now, when you speak about truth, and when you are in the court, you have different people standing in that witness box, and you're standing outside there questioning them, interrogating them, let's say.
Right.
And you represent one person, right?
Right.
And that same person is being represented by another person as well. No, and there's another, defendant as well as,
another lawyer on the other
yeah,
side.
and on the other side.
Right.
How do you know? How do you, judge? How do you come to a conclusion that, yes, the person that I'm representing is the right person?
Well, I think what happens, Father, is on TV shows like Wordnet,
Yeah.
everything happens in a half hour or an hour. You're watching the FBI show or NCIS, and the crime occurs, and the investigation occurs, and the trial occurs, and
within 1 hour everything is over.
And 1 hour, boy, in reality, lawsuits go on for years. In California, there's a 5-year statute. You have to bring your case to trial within 5 years.
Oh, really?
Well, with the COVID situation, as times have changed, courts closed down. It's 2 years, 3 years to get into court. So over that period of time, you come to know, if you're a good lawyer, your client. You know their story. You know who's going to corroborate their story. You're going to know the other side's story, because it's not like everything is just thrown at you for the first time, because in modern day practice, you do discovery, and you can get the other side's information before you ever go to court. And you can take depositions and interrogatories of the other side. So if they're not consistent with what they told you last year with today, you can bring that up. So as a result, we pretty much know going in what one side's going to say and what the other. Is there a smoking gun? Not very often. That's more often on the TV shows than in reality.
Now, this is something interesting probably. Of course, my information and my knowledge would be not, I've never been in a live court scene. All that I know is what I've seen on the movies and what we recreate maybe some other
We'll have
places.
to take you to court someday. Okay.
Yeah. I would love to go and just be part of that. Now, have you ever had an experience, you said it takes years for a court, for a case to go to the court as well as, to progress. Have you ever had an experience over the years you found that this is not right, I'm going to back out?
Yes. And fortunately, it hasn't happened too many times, but there have been occasions when we've had to actually fire the client, as opposed to the client firing the lawyer. You've got to find somebody else, because I cannot do this. I don't think I can do it for whatever reason, whether it's a credibility issue or an understanding issue or comprehension. But you never want to go to court and try a case. You don't want to represent a client that you don't believe in and that you don't like. For the most part, we have clients that have been with us for decades, and we kind of know their children and grandchildren and seen their businesses grow. Or their real estate develop, whatever it was. So my experience has been fortunate that I don't deal with a lot of new people every day. I have a lot of old people that I kind of know. But look, we've had people that show up that come up with a pretty, sometimes a bizarre story or an incredible story. You listen to it because you want everyone to get a fair shake, because there are unusual stories up there. There's injustice out there. But we try to size it up so that we don't get deep into something something where we just don't belong, or even, in my opinion, they don't belong.
They don't. Have you also had any situation where you, of course, you are representing your client, and the same case, the other party's lawyer, you had to come together and when you discuss and how the end is going to be, have you had that kind of a situation?
A number of times.
Really?
As a matter of fact, I've had you asked me what was fulfilling in the law in your experience.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Well, I'm going to get right there for you. I've had a number of cases where I've tried the case and either been successful or unsuccessful. It could be both, because you don't win them all. But I've had the other side come and hire me afterwards. And that is something that is very fulfilling. Or someone that's left you and they come back to you sometime later because maybe the grass wasn't as green as they thought on the other side. So it's, you know, it's movable, and things change. You've got to be careful not to personalize things too much or gloat too much. You know, you try to keep an even keel with all this, because nothing's new and everything's going to change. And
what has been the most challenging, moment or aspect in your profession, both balancing it with your faith life as well?
Well, I think that the most difficult thing is, as I said, the world changing, and I wish there were more consistency from when I was a youth to where I am today. The church has been very consistent. The Eucharist, the Mass, is very consistent. It's something you can count on.
Yeah.
It was like that before. It was like that for 2,000 years. It's going to be like it 2,000 years from now. That is something that I wish young people would appreciate as they're going off to the newest thing. And so the challenge is to try to keep the faith and try to share it with future generations, and know that if you rely on it, if you can count on it, it sure will carry you through some difficult times, whether it's difficult times learning to be a young lawyer, or learning a new profession, or learning law enforcement. It is the greatest crutch and the greatest support system you can have. So it's sad that we don't rely on it the same way, but I'm very hopeful that we're able to take to future generations that great benefit that we had.
Thank you so much. Thanks so
Brian.
much for your support, to Wordnet ministry. So also thank you for everything that you do, in the church, because you have been a great support and a help, both in the diocese, so also for the society, the Divine Word Society. We do appreciate that, and let's continue to do the same. We will close the show with a short prayer.
Good. Great.
Okay. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for letting us be together. Lord, I ask you to bless Bill and also every effort that he has to bring your word, to bring your mission in completion to wherever he is. May everything that he does in order to protect people, so also protect the good life of others, be blessed, Lord. And may our association with Wordnet as well as with the diocese continue to blossom, and may your blessings always be with him and upon his family, and a special blessing upon everyone who is listening to this program. May they be blessed with your abundant blessings and be protected, especially during this time. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Kindly remember to support the ministry and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, and blessings always.